Hi, welcome. Enjoy the content, subscribe and turn on notification.
Declan Vance never thought the discipline he built his career on, maintaining absolute, cryogenic cool under pressure as an air traffic controller, would be stress-tested in such a personal, devastating manner. At 36, Declan was the man people trusted implicitly. He was methodical, observant, capable of making life or death decisions in fractions of a second, while guiding aluminum tubes filled with souls, 30,000 feet in the air. His professional life at Seattle-Tacoma International Airport was flawless. A perfect grid of arrivals and departures. He believed his personal life operated on the same efficient frequency. He had been married for 9 years to Sophie. Sophie was 34. Sophie was the variable that balanced Declan's equation. She was a corporate event coordinator, a woman of vibrant colors and easy laughter. The kind of person who could walk into a room of strangers and leave with 10 new best friends. They had met at a gallery opening neither of them wanted to attend. Sophie had spilled cheap white wine on his sleeve, laughed, and wiped it off with a cocktail napkin. Declan, usually reserved and introspective, found himself drawn to her chaotic energy. It felt like watching a storm front move in. Beautiful, unpredictable, but manageable, if you had the right instruments. Their marriage, from Declan's perspective, was a solid anchor in a chaotic world. They lived in a craftsman-style house in a quiet, rain-washed neighborhood of West Seattle. They had a manicured lawn, a joint bank account, and a shared calendar. They did not have children yet, though the topic was a recurring item on their long-term agenda, slated for the next fiscal year. Once Sophie's career stabilized, and Declan rotated off the graveyard shifts, Declan believed in routines. Routines were safety. He worked rotating shifts at the tower, sometimes scanning the dark skies at 3 in the morning, sometimes managing the heavy traffic of a Friday afternoon. He was always alert, always focused. He prided himself on his ability to compartmentalize. When he was in the tower, Sophie did not exist. When he was home, the planes did not exist. Sophie, however, was constantly in motion. Her job demanded her presence at product launches, charity galas, and high-stakes conferences. She was glued to her phone, her thumbs flying across the screen, coordinating caterers, soothing temperamental clients, closing deals. Declan admired her dedication. Or at least, that is what he told himself. He viewed her career as a necessary outlet for her surplus energy, a way to keep her busy, so she would be content with the quiet stability he provided at home. They had an unspoken agreement. Or so Declan assumed. Mutual trust, professional space, unconditional support. But looking back, analyzing the data logs of their marriage, Declan realized the signal had been degrading for months. The interference was subtle at first, barely registering on his radar. Sophie started staying at the office later. It began with 30 minutes, then an hour. She would come home after 10 in the evening, smelling of stale office air and exhaustion, but always with a ready excuse. A vendor had backed out. A client had a meltdown. A venue had a lighting failure she had to fix personally. Declan never questioned it. Why would he? He operated on logic. If Sophie said she was working, she was working. To doubt her without evidence would be inefficient. It would introduce unnecessary friction into the system. He trusted her the way a pilot trusts the instrument landing system. Blindly, completely. But then, the travel patterns changed. Sophie had always traveled occasionally for events outside of Seattle. But in the past 6 weeks, the frequency had spiked. A seminar in Bellevue. A walkthrough in Tacoma. A networking event in Olympia. Always nearby. Always day trips or single overnights. But always keeping her just out of his range. Declan also noted a shift in her atmospheric pressure. Sophie was different. She was distant, emotionally unavailable. When they ate dinner together on the rare occasions their schedules aligned, she was less interested in deep conversation and more interested in the device in her hand. She guarded her phone like it contained state secrets. She would smile at the screen. A soft, private smile. that Declan had not seen directed at him in a very long time. When he asked who she was messaging, she gave vague, non-committal answers. Just work drama, she would say, flipping the phone face down on the table, or, Jessica sending me memes. Declan wanted to believe her. He wanted to maintain the status quo. But a growing unease, a static buzz in the back of his mind, began to gnaw at his peace. It was the same feeling he got when two blips on his radar screen moved just a fraction too close together. It was the instinct that screamed, collision course. The turning point occurred on a Friday in late October. The Seattle sky was a bruised shade of gray. Spitting rain that slicked the streets and blurred the windows. Declan was scheduled to work the tower until 5 in the afternoon. But a sudden shift trade with a colleague who had a family emergency released him at 3. He saw this as an opportunity. A chance to recalibrate the system. He knew Sophie was at her office downtown, finalizing details for a tech summit scheduled for the following week. He decided he would pick her up early, surprise her, and take her to that French bistro she claimed to love. He would reignite the connection he felt slipping away. He would fix the glitch. Declan got into his pristine sedan, the interior smelling of leather and order, and drove into the city. The traffic was heavy, but Declan navigated it with the same detached precision he used to guide Boeing 747s. He parked in a garage 2 blocks from the commercial high-rise where Sophie's company leased the 14th floor. He took the elevator up, rehearsing a casual greeting. When the doors slid open, the office hummed with the low-level panic typical of the event industry. The receptionist, a young woman named Caitlin, who had met Declan at the company holiday party, looked up. Her smile faltered for a microsecond before she recovered. "Hi, Declan," she said, her voice pitching slightly higher than normal. "Looking for Sophie?" Declan nodded, leaning comfortably against the high desk. "I got off early. Thought I'd steal her away for an early dinner." "Is she in a meeting?" Caitlin frowned, her fingers hovering over her keyboard. She looked confused. "Oh. She left, over an hour ago." Declan felt a cold drop of sensation in his stomach. "Left? Did she say where?" "She said she had an off-site walkthrough," Caitlin replied, checking her monitor. "But she blocked out the rest of the afternoon. I assumed she was meeting you, or going home." Declan kept his face neutral. He did not let the panic show. "Right. Of course. I must have mixed up the times. She probably went to the venue first." "Thanks, Caitlin." He walked back to the elevator, his heart rate remaining steady, though his mind was racing, processing variables. Sophie had texted him at 1 o'clock saying she would be buried in paperwork until 8. Why lie? Declan returned to his car. He sat in the driver's seat, the engine idling. He tried to rationalize. Maybe she went to the venue and forgot to update him. Maybe her battery died. But the unease was no longer a buzz. It was a siren. He remembered the safety protocol. Years ago, they had enabled location sharing on their phones. It was intended for emergencies, car accidents, medical issues. They rarely checked it. It was a background utility. Declan pulled out his phone. He opened the tracking application. The map loaded. The blue dot representing him, and the red dot representing Sophie. The red dot was not at a venue. It was not at her office. It was blinking steadily at an address on the northern outskirts of the city, near an industrial park that was slowly being gentrified. Declan zoomed in. The address corresponded to the Apex Hotel. It was a discreet, boutique establishment, modern and minimalist, popular with business travelers who wanted to avoid the downtown crush. Declan clicked on the location history. The interface was cold, unfeeling, displaying raw data. He felt the ground vanish beneath him. The Apex Hotel had appeared repeatedly in the logs over the past 5 weeks. Always on Wednesdays. Always on Fridays. Always. In the afternoon. 10 times. Declan stared at the screen. 10 visits. 10 distinct coordinates. 10 distinct lies. He did not scream. He did not hit the steering wheel. He simply engaged the gear. He started the car and drove toward the northern outskirts. The trip took 25 minutes. To Declan, it felt like a simulation. His mind spun, searching for an innocent explanation, a recurring client meeting, a workspace rental. But deep down, the data was conclusive. He knew. Declan parked his sedan in the hotel lot. He spotted Sophie's car immediately. A white crossover SUV he had helped her negotiate for 3 years ago. It was parked in the back row, away from the main entrance. His stomach churned. A physical rejection of the reality before him. But his face remained a mask of professional calm. He walked into the hotel lobby. It was a sleek space, smelling of white tea and expensive cedar. He approached the front desk. A young male attendant with a perfectly trimmed beard looked up. Declan switched into his professional mode. This was just another crisis to manage. Another plane with a landing gear malfunction. "Good afternoon," Declan said. His voice smooth. Authoritative. "My wife, Sophie Vance, checked in earlier. She asked me to meet her to drop off some documents she forgot, but I seem to have misplaced the room number text. Could you assist?" The attendant hesitated, his eyes darting to the computer screen. I would need to call up to the room to confirm, sir. Company policy." Declan smiled. It was a cold, tight smile. That did not reach his eyes. He leaned in slightly. "She's in the middle of a conference call. That's why she needed me to bring the files up quietly. I'd hate to have you interrupt her and cause a scene. I just need the number. I have my ID if you need to verify the last name." He placed his driver's license on the counter. The name matched. The attendant looked at Declan's calm demeanor. His well-pressed shirt. His air of absolute command. The attendant crumbled. "Room 312, the attendant whispered. "Third floor." "Thank you," Declan said. "That is all I needed." He turned and walked toward the elevators, ignoring the attendant's belated, weak protest. The elevator ride was silent. Declan watched the numbers climb. 1, 2, 3. His heart was hammering against his ribs. A frantic rhythm that contradicted his steady hands. His palms were dry. Room 312 was at the end of a long, carpeted hallway. The silence was heavy. Declan stopped in front of the door. He did not listen for sounds. He did not hesitate. He took a breath, raised his hand, and knocked. 3 sharp, authoritative raps. There was a shuffling sound inside. Footsteps approached. The lock clicked. The door opened. A stranger stood there. He was wrapped in a white hotel towel around his waist. He looked to be about 40. Dark hair, slightly graying at the temples, slicked back from a recent shower. He looked confused, annoyed. "Yeah? Can I help you?" the man asked. Declan did not answer him. He looked past the man. Into the room. The room was dim. The curtains drawn against the gray afternoon. Clothes were scattered on the floor. On the edge of the unmade bed sat Sophie. She was wearing a hotel robe. Her hair messy. Her face pale as a sheet of printer paper. She saw Declan over the man's shoulder. She froze. Her eyes went wide, filled with pure, unadulterated terror. "Declan," she breathed. It wasn't a question. It was a surrender. The man at the door turned, following her gaze. He realized the situation instantly. He stepped back, raising his hands in a defensive posture. "Look, man," the stranger stammered. "I can explain." Declan cut him off with a look so cold it could have frozen jet fuel. "You do not need to explain anything." He stepped into the room, forcing the man to retreat further. Declan looked at Sophie. She was standing now, her hands trembling violently. "Get dressed," Declan said. His voice was low, controlled. It was the voice he used when a pilot was panicking in a thunderstorm. "We are going home." "Declan, I." Sophie started to sob. "Get dressed." Sophie nodded, scrambling to gather her clothes from the floor. The man, still in his towel, looked between them, terrified that violence was about to erupt. "Dude, I'm really sorry," the man said. "I didn't know she was." Declan raised a hand, silencing him. He did not shout. He did not throw a punch. He looked at the man with clinical detachment. "I do not care who you are," Declan said softly. "But you will care. Very soon." He turned his back on the man and walked out into the hallway to wait. The drive home was a silent nightmare. Declan drove on autopilot. His mind was racing, cataloging, processing, deciding. Sophie sat in the passenger seat, staring out the window, tears streaming down her face silently. She made no sound. She knew better. While waiting at a red light, Declan pulled out his phone. He took screenshots of the GPS history. He saved the location data. He emailed copies to his secure personal account. Evidence. He needed evidence. Feelings were irrelevant. Data was king. They arrived at the house as the sun was setting, casting long, distorted shadows across the living room. They walked in. Sophie hesitated in the foyer. Declan went straight to the kitchen table. He opened his laptop. He connected to the wireless printer. He printed the GPS screenshots. The whirring of the printer was the only sound in the house. He laid the pages out on the wooden table, organizing them chronologically. Sophie stood in the kitchen doorway, her arms wrapped around herself, looking small and broken. Declan finally looked at her. He crossed his arms. His expression was unreadable. "Do you have something to say?" Sophie broke. The dam burst. Sobs shook her body. She stepped forward, reaching for his arm, but he took a precise step back, maintaining the gap. "Declan, please. Let me explain," she choked out. "Then explain," he said. His voice was pure ice. Sophie sat down, burying her face in her hands. "It was an error. A terrible error. I never meant for this to happen." "How many times?" Declan asked. He pointed to the printouts. "Count them. How many times did you go to that hotel?" Sophie sniffled. I don't know. 8? Maybe 10. 10 times is not an error, Sophie," Declan said. 10 times is a procedure. 10 times is a choice you made. Over and over again." He leaned forward, placing his hands on the table. "Who is he?" "Jared Thorne," she whispered. He provides audio-visual equipment for the West Coast region. We started working together in June. He was attentive. He made me laugh. He listened. And that justifies it?" Declan asked. "No," Sophie cried. "Nothing justifies it. I felt alone, Declan. You are always working. You are always tired. You treat me like an employee. We barely talk. I just wanted to feel seen." Declan stared at her. He felt a flash of anger, but he suppressed it instantly. "Do not try to blame this on me. If you are unhappy, the protocol is to communicate. You talk to me. We fix the problem. You do not sleep with another man." He paused, his eyes narrowing. "Does he know you are married?" Sophie nodded weakly. "Is he married?" Silence. Declan laughed. It was a bitter, sharp sound. "Of course he is. So, you are both destroying 2 families. Efficient. It's over." Sophie begged, standing up. "Declan, please. I will end it with him. I will go to therapy. I will do anything. Don't end us like this." "You ended us the moment you compromised the integrity of this marriage," Declan said. "I trusted you. I never checked up on you. I never doubted you. And you threw that away. Because he made you laugh?" He shook his head. "No. You made this choice. And now, you will live with the consequences." He told her she could sleep in the guest room. Tomorrow, she would leave. Sophie argued, begged, and pleaded for hours. Declan was immovable. He was a wall of stone. Eventually, defeated, she went upstairs. Declan stayed in the kitchen. He stared at the printouts. He felt a mix of anger and cold clarity. He had work to do. On Saturday morning, Declan woke up early. He had slept 4 hours. It was enough. Sophie was still in the guest room. The house was quiet. Declan picked up his phone and began his research. First, he looked up divorce laws in Washington state. It was a community property state. No-fault divorce. He didn't need to prove adultery to get a divorce, but the evidence would establish a narrative. It would help him control the negotiation. He found a top-tier family law attorney in downtown Seattle. He drafted a concise email, attaching the evidence, requesting an urgent consultation for Monday morning. Then, Declan did something he knew was necessary. It was not vengeance, he told himself. It was a safety advisory. It was clearing the airspace. He searched for Jared Thorne Audio Visual Seattle on social media. He found Jared's profile quickly. Jared was not careful with his privacy settings. He was married to a woman named Monica. They had 2 young children, a boy and a girl. The cover photo showed a happy family at a pumpkin patch. Staged smiles, plaid shirts. Declan felt a pang of something, perhaps guilt, but he pushed it down. Monica was a variable in this equation. She was flying blind. She deserved to see the instrument panel. Declan created an anonymous email account. He wrote a short direct message. Subject: regarding your husband, Jared. Monica. I am sorry to be the one to tell you this, but you deserve the truth. Your husband, Jared Thorne, is having an affair with a coworker named Sophie Vance. They meet at the Apex Hotel on Wednesdays and Fridays. I have attached the location history screenshots from my wife's phone. Check his messages. You deserve someone who respects the contract of marriage. A friend. Declan attached the GPS screenshots, carefully cropping out anything that could identify his own device. He hit send. He watched the progress bar complete. Sent. It wasn't revenge. It was justice. It was balancing the scales. Monday arrived. Declan took a personal day. He met with the lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman named Catherine. She reviewed the evidence. You have a solid position, Catherine said. Since you have no children, the separation will be financial. We can expedite this. I want it done fast, Declan said. I want a clean break. We will have the papers served by Wednesday, Catherine promised. Meanwhile, the bomb Declan had planted in Jared's life detonated. Monica received the email on Sunday. She checked Jared's phone while he was in the shower. She found the messages. By Monday afternoon, Monica had thrown Jared out of their suburban home. She contacted Sophie's company. She sent a formal complaint to the Human Resources Department, detailing the affair between Sophie and a vendor, alleging conflict of interest and unprofessional conduct. She attached screenshots of text messages where Jared and Sophie discussed utilizing company expense accounts to cover site visits that were actually hotel trysts. On Tuesday, Sophie was summoned to HR. She returned to the house she shared with Declan looking like a ghost. She had been issued a formal reprimand. Her reputation was in tatters. Jared's contract with the company was terminated immediately. Jared, realizing his life was collapsing, called Sophie. He was furious. He blamed her. He claimed she had ruined him. Sophie tried to defend herself, but he hung up and blocked her number. When Declan handed Sophie the divorce papers on Wednesday evening, she didn't fight. She was exhausted. She signed the acknowledgement of service. I'm sorry, she whispered. I know, Declan said. He felt nothing. No pity. No love. Just the satisfaction of a problem being resolved. Sophie moved out that weekend. She found a small, cramped apartment in a less desirable part of town. Declan kept the house. He bought out her share of the equity using his savings. It was a calculated financial hit, but worth it to maintain his territory. The divorce was finalized in 90 days. 6 months after the discovery. Declan stood in the center of his living room. The walls were freshly painted a cool, sterile gray. The furniture had been rearranged. There was no trace of Sophie left. No photos. No throw pillows. No chaotic energy. The house was quiet. It was perfect. Declan had started therapy. Not because he felt broken, but because it was the logical next step to optimize his mental health. His therapist told him that Sophie's betrayal was about her flaws. Not his. Declan agreed. He had been a provider. A protector. She had been defective. He also needed a new outlet. The gym was too crowded. He found a bouldering gym in downtown Seattle. It was a sport that required intense focus, problem solving, and solitary strength. It suited him. He was climbing a V4 Route 1 Tuesday evening. His fingers dusted with white chalk. His muscles straining as he reached for the next hold. He pulled himself up, securing his footing. Nice move, a voice said from below. Declan looked down. A woman was watching him. She was about 30, athletic build. Dark hair tied back in a practical ponytail. He dropped down to the mat, landing gracefully. "Thanks," he said. "I'm Elena," she said, offering a smile. It was a genuine smile. "I've been trying to figure out that route for a week. You made it look like a manual." "It's just about leverage," Declan said, wiping his hands. "And planning your path before you start. Maybe you could show me?" Elena asked. Declan looked at her. He scanned her face, looking for micro-expressions, looking for variables. She seemed stable. She seemed open. "Sure," Declan said. "I can show you." They started talking. They went for coffee after the session. Elena was a pharmacist. Precise. Educated. She liked order. Declan felt a flicker of interest. It wasn't the chaotic storm he had felt with Sophie, it was something cooler. Something more manageable. As he sat across from Elena, listening to her talk about chemical compounds, Declan smiled. He thought about Sophie. She was a distant memory now. A closed file. He heard she had moved back to Oregon to live with her parents. Failed. Declan looked at Elena. He would be careful this time. He would calibrate the sensors earlier. He would watch for the drift. "So," Elena said, leaning in. "Have you been climbing long?" "No," Declan said. "Just a few months. Needed a change of scenery." "Well, you're a natural," she said. "I'm just observant," Declan replied. He took a sip of his black coffee. The system was resetting. The airspace was clear. He was ready to take control again. And this time, he would make sure there were no blind spots. He was free. And he was watching. Always. Watching. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any updates. See you next.